Tempt. Romance audiobooks. A safe place to explore your dreams.
Eve.
Pretty sure I'm going to burst into hell-spawned flame if I step one toe over that threshold, Eve.
Augie stared at the quaint whitewashed church with the same sort of expression he had when it was his week to clean the bathrooms at the club. He crossed his arms over his broad chest, nose wrinkled as if the entire thing was offensive to his morals. If he'd had any. Lyric stopped beside him, her long red hair flowing down her back in waves, and squinted past the crowds milling around us on the church lawn. As much as I hate to agree with Augie about anything, I'm with him this time. What the hell? I rolled my eyes. Don't be dramatic. Though dramatic was both Augie's and Lyric's middle name, which was exactly why I hadn't told either of them where the press conference was taking place. Neither would have come. I actually hadn't told any of my crew where we were going. I just said I needed help with something, and the four of them had piled into my car willingly. But now, even Phoenix's usually quiet demeanor felt more like he was waiting for an explanation, and Fawn, who was usually all sunshine and rainbows, nibbled on a fingernail nervously. I grabbed her hand, pulling Fawn's fingers away from her mouth. Hey, you're not going to spontaneously combust because we're at a church. I know that. But she didn't look entirely convinced. You worried about being struck down by some almighty being too? I asked Phoenix. His gaze raked over the milling crowd, who all edged around us as though we were a pond of alligators, ready to launch out of the water, snap our jaws around their ankles, and drag them down into the murky depths of our lair. One older lady, in her Sunday best, gaped up at Phoenix with his tattoos, scars, and scowl. He gave her a moment. At 6'5" and a wall of pure muscle, Phoenix was used to people staring at him. But when she made no move to carry on, he leaned down and whispered,
Ooh.
The woman gasped and scuttled off deeper into the crowd, darting glances back at him as she went. I sighed. I can't take you guys anywhere. Not true, Lyric piped up. Bar? Good. Beach? Good. Church? She stuck both thumbs up, then made a show of turning them upside down. Seriously, though, what are we doing here? Her gaze strayed to the young priest lingering in the doorway of the church. I mean, he's hot for a guy dressed in a robe. But if you're hoping to save our souls, you probably should have told us to dress down a little. Lyric's tiny shorts barely covered her perfect ass, and a low-cut top showed a healthy amount of her impressive cleavage. She wasn't wearing a bra. She had no need to. Her boobs were courtesy of a great surgeon and sat high and proud, without the assistance of an underwire. You look great, I told her. But that's beside the point. We aren't here for some god to judge your clothes, or your sins. If there was a god, he already knew our sins, and between the five of us, we had plenty. And we aren't here to check out the priest. Did you see the tattoo peeking out beneath his sleeve, though? I'm so intrigued. I ignored her and passed over a creased piece of paper. You're here for moral support. Dragging her attention away from the apparently tatted-up priest, she took the paper, running a long, bright pink fingernail beneath one of the corners to unfold it. She glanced over the neatly printed writing and then stared up at me with big eyes. What the fuck? Heads turned around us, and Lyric glowered in their direction. What? You never heard someone drop an F-bomb in your life? Get out of here. Augie snatched the paper from her hand, and Phoenix and Fawn read over his shoulders. Augie was practically vibrating with anger by the time he got to the bottom of the page.
They're trying to shut us down?
I took the notice back from him, tucking it inside my purse once more. Yes.
Unfucking-believable.
He swore, none too softly, earning him more stares.
Who does this guy think he is?
I pointed to one of the signs hammered into the grass. Right in the center, a middle-aged man stared out with an overly enthusiastic smile that showed off almost every single one of his pearly white teeth. Lines crinkled at the corners of blue eyes, and a crisp white shirt, navy suit jacket, and matching tie completed the look. There was no mistaking a photo like that. They were reserved solely for real estate agents and politicians. William Reed was definitely the latter. "Speak of the devil," I murmured, a sleek black limousine rolling up and stopping at the curb. "And he shall appear," Lyric drawled. William slid out of the fancy car, and the crowd around us cheered like he was some returning hero. They pushed forward, and the police appeared out of nowhere, calling for everyone to stay back and give them room. William smiled widely, waving to his milling supporters, then eventually turned his attention back to the car, offering his wife a hand. She placed her fingers in his and allowed him to help her out. 2 others followed, one a teenage girl and a slightly older guy.
Who were they?
I glanced up at Phoenix. "You mean, who is he?" His gaze was trained firmly on the mayoral candidate's son. Phoenix shrugged and turned away. I sidled closer. "His name is Dylan. He's 21.
How do you know that?
I shrugged. "I did my homework after I saw the notice about all this." Phoenix didn't answer, but I didn't miss the way he tracked Dylan through the crowd until he and his family reached the church steps. An assistant handed him a microphone, his family taking up spots behind in support.
Imagine being the son of a politician.
Augie mused.
Must be nice. All that money and tennis lessons and fancy houses.
None of us commented. At the microphone, William Reed cleared his throat, capturing the attention of his supporters.
Thank you all for coming out on this glorious day. Certainly does feel like summer is in the air, doesn't it?
There were nods and murmurs of agreement.
We're only weeks away from the local elections now, and so I want to delve into the real reason we're here today, gathered at our church. We all know Providence is a great area. Most of you probably grew up here and raised your families on these very streets surrounding us. Am I right?
Lyric sniffed. "Oh, yes," she mocked beneath her breath. "We all grew up in mansions with silver spoons in our mouths." I shushed her, though I could have said the same thing. Internally, I resented the suit, assuming everybody here was Providence born and bred. Never mind that Providence shared a border with St. View, one of the poorest towns around, and home for the 5 of us.
We love our hometown. It's full of great schools, parks, and opportunities for our children to thrive. My own children grew up here, so Providence is in our blood. Gag me with that silver spoon.
Augie scowled.
This guy is so smarmy.
"That's a big word for you," Lyric quipped back playfully. He stuck his middle finger up at her with a grin. "Shut up, would you?" I had to interrupt their squabbling, or they'd go on for hours. "I'm trying to listen." William carried on like we weren't already attracting attention.
But we all know why we're here today. It's the one thing so many of you have brought up to me when I've seen you having coffee in our bakery. And the same thing you've told me right here on this lawn after Sunday morning mass. It's the elephant in every room, and the hot-button topic my esteemed opponent is too afraid to discuss. But I'm not.
He gazed out over the crowd, pausing for dramatic effect. "Oh, for fuck's sake," I muttered. "Spit it out, old man. Some of us have better things to do. Just say the words. St. View." Fawn tittered beside me. William, finally done with his meaningful stares, opened his mouth once more.
St. View.
"Hallelujah," I huffed. It's a miracle he actually got to the point before I went gray. William's pre-written spiel carried on despite my comments.
St. View is the one problem our current mayor won't tackle. He sweeps it under the rug like it doesn't affect each and every one of us.
There were nods of approval all around, and I gaped at their bobbing heads, stunned these people seemed to agree with him. Though I really shouldn't have been. We were no strangers to residents of Providence looking at us like we were gum stuck to their shoe.
St. View drags our property prices down. The crime rate is high, and it spills over into Providence. The housing situation there is dire. Many areas need to be completely demolished and rebuilt, and I have plans for all of that. Starting with St. View Strip, the main road that runs through the center of the town.
That was why I was here. That was why, instead of enjoying my day off and spending the unseasonably warm weather at the beach in a bikini, working on my tan, I was here, risking God shooting down a lightning bolt because a sinner like me dared step foot on his holy ground. But some things were worth fighting for, and the Strip was one of them.
"What's wrong with the Strip?"
Augie yelled out. William peered through the crowd, trying to find the source of the question. When his gaze landed on Augie, then slid to the rest of us standing shoulder to shoulder, his lip flickered in disgust. It wasn't lost on any of us. Augie stiffened beside me, and Fawn put a hand on his arm. He glanced down at her, relaxing visibly. This was exactly why I'd brought her. She was an Augie muffler, and sometimes the guy needed it. William was completely unaware he'd set off Augie and his ticking time bomb, though. He'd scoffed into the microphone.
"I think the question is, what's right with it? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Once you see what's beneath these cloths, I think you'll all be very excited for the changes ahead."
He pulled the cloth off a large poster board to one side with the flourish of a magician.
"These are my plans for St. View Strip."
A gasp ripped from my throat, but it was lost in the clapping of the crowd.
"My plans are to demolish every building and replace them with a new lineup of stores and services. I've already had interest from a yoga studio and a health food store, and we'll continue searching for other high-quality businesses that will service the entire area, both Providence and St. View."
Lyric turned to me with wide eyes. "Is this guy for real? He wants to knock down the entire Strip to put in yoga studios? He can't do that." Damn right he couldn't. "Excuse me," I called. William glanced quickly in my direction, took in what I was wearing and the people I stood with, and carried on like I hadn't spoken.
"Once the construction is finished on the Strip, we'll move into the residential areas. I have developers—"
I raised one eyebrow. I'd come here willing to be civil, willing to put forward my objections calmly and professionally. But I hadn't come here to be looked down on. For my voice to be dismissed because I wasn't wearing a flowered dress with a fucking petticoat beneath. I pushed my way through the crowd until I stood at the front. Without checking, I knew the others stood behind me. They always had my back, just like I had theirs. I said, "Excuse me," I interrupted. William finally glanced down at me from his spot on the podium.
"Yes."
"Have you actually asked the people who live in St. View what they want?" William was smooth as honey, and it dripped from his sickly sweet words.
"Just like every other member of this community, St. View residents have had the opportunity to express their needs and wants at town meetings."
"Town meetings held in St. View?" I asked. William's smile faltered an inch.
"Well, no. The meetings were held here in Providence."
I nodded, like I completely understood his point. "Right. So all the members of the St. View community, a large number of which don't have access to a vehicle, they were just supposed to walk here?" He smiled, tolerantly. Though as close as I was, it was clear to me it was forced.
"I can't be expected to personally chauffeur the entire community now, can I?"
He chuckled, and his followers laughed right along with him. Like the poor excuse for public transportation in St. View was something to laugh at. It wasn't. "Did you even tell anyone in St. View about these meetings? Did you send letters to those families the way you did here in Providence?" His stare turned challenging.
"You're here, aren't you?"
The insult was ingrained in his tone. The put-down, the clear, "I'm from Providence, you're from St. View," line in the sand that had existed for as long as I could remember. I wasn't playing into that. "Actually, I didn't receive any sort of notice about this meeting. I live in St. View. I own 2 properties there as well as a business on the Strip, but not one of those properties received this flyer." I held up the notice about the meeting. "This I got from my hairdresser in Providence. It was pinned on her front desk, and when I walked back to my car after my appointment, I saw most of the businesses there had notices up about it too. If I hadn't needed a haircut this week, I wouldn't have had a clue about any of this. There was a titter of uncomfortable laughter that only riled me up more.
Well, I'll have to look into that. But as I was saying...
My blood boiled over. I would not be dismissed, not by some privileged old white guy who had never roughed it a day in his life. He had no idea of what St. View was like. He'd never lived in a tiny government-owned house that was so derelict it should have been condemned. He'd never had to wonder where his next meal was coming from. Who was he to pretend he knew what the people of St. View needed? He didn't know shit if he thought we needed yoga studios. There was no representation here. None except for me and the 4 people who stood at my side. If we had to be St. View's voice, then we would be. What about the businesses already on the strip? What happens to us? My business puts food in the mouths of my employees' families. It pays for clothing, education. What happens to them when you close us down? Augie, Fawn, Lyric, and Phoenix all shouted their agreement. We might be outnumbered, but we would be loud if we had to be. We would be loud for all the people who didn't get to be here to have their say. William held his hand up, calling for silence.
And who exactly are you, Miss?
Hawkins. Eve Hawkins. A flash of recognition streaked across his face. He looked down at the piece of paper on his podium.
The same Eve Hawkins who owns St. View Strip Club?
An old woman to my left frowned, pursing her thin, wrinkled lips together. Strip club? The devil lives in those places. Shame on you. I suppressed the urge to sneer in her face. They could try shaming me all they wanted. It wasn't anything I hadn't heard before. Lady, your husband probably spends all his Friday nights at my club. Don't go acting like you're all high and mighty. The woman gasped and turned away. Augie chuckled his delight behind me.
There's no need for language like that, Miss Hawkins. This is a peaceful discussion. If you can't keep your tongue in check, I suggest you go back where you came from.
William nodded to the police officers at his side. At his command, the officers moved down in front of him, forming a barrier between me and the politician's family. Where I came from? I seethed as the officers filed into place. What is that supposed to mean?
Settle down.
My attention snapped to the police officer who had issued the warning. My gaze rolled up his solid chest, only to be met with the most beautiful hazel eyes I'd ever seen. I did a double take, absorbing the details of his face, partially obscured by his cap. A strong jaw covered by a light dusting of dark stubble, and full lips that were currently drawn into a frown. He would have been hot if he weren't glaring at me. It took me a second to compose myself long enough to glare back. I'm sure you didn't just tell me to settle down like I was some sort of overexcited dog. I have a right to be here and speak my mind.
And I have the right to arrest you for making a public disturbance. I don't want to do that, which is why I politely asked you to settle down.
Anger bubbled up inside me. Another rich white dude trying to lord his power over me. This is my business he's trying to destroy. William huffed in my direction.
I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm trying to make St. View better. We need to attract wealthy investors and tourists. We can't do that when the strip is overrun by prostitutes and sex clubs.
Prostitutes? Anger flushed through me, hot and raw. Oh, no, he didn't. Lyric stepped forward, fingers clenched into fists, only to come eye to eye with another police officer. They tightened their ranks around us while the rest of the crowd backed away nervously.
Oh, yes, he did.
Augie's growl was menacing. He didn't even have a leg to stand on. I knew for a fact he took on personal clients, and there was a lot more than just dancing going on at those parties. But he wasn't doing that at my club. The man was a grown adult. He could do what he liked in his free time, as far as I was concerned. So, hypocrite or not, I was grateful for the backup. Nobody at my club is trading sex for money. We're dancers, entertainers. Last I checked, there was nothing wrong with that. This is bullshit! My voice came out shriller than I wanted it to. But screw them and their assumptions.
Seriously?
My cop said quietly.
You need to stop.
But I was beyond stopping. I was fired up, blood hot, and not going home without a fight. Or what? We just want to be heard. We want to actually be consulted about what happens in our neighborhood. And instead, we're here, in yours, being told that our livelihoods are being stripped away in favor of a yoga studio? Nobody in St. View is doing any downward fucking dogs, cop. William sighed heavily into the microphone.
Officers, can we please remove the disturbance? There are other people who came here to be heard. I believe Ms. Hawkins has overstayed her welcome. Time to go.
The cop stepped in closer, putting his hands on my bare arms. A spark of electricity shot through my entire body at his touch. I jolted, my gaze slamming into his once more. For a moment he held it while I drowned in his eyes. Damn, they were gorgeous. But the real world came crashing back at a scream from Fawn as she was manhandled through the crowd. Augie launched himself after her, trying to get her away from the officers. 3 more swarmed in, surrounding him too. The moment between me and the officer disintegrated. His gaze narrowed into one of frustration.
Get your people under control before we arrest the lot of you.
But anger, outrage, and healthy dose of lust swirled my blood. There was no backing down now. I grabbed one of William's campaign posters, ripping down the center in defiance. William squawked from the podium.
That's destruction of property. I want her arrested.
I crossed my arms over my chest. Oh, for fuck's sake, shut up! The cop's grip on my arms tightened, and he hustled me through the crowd toward the squad cars in the parking lot. Are you really going to arrest me over ripping up a sign?
Are you going to leave quietly if I don't?
I snorted. I think we both know the answer to that is a big fat hell no, don't we? He pressed his lips together like I was impossible.
I hope you enjoy handcuffs then.
I almost told him I might have if we'd been in another setting. He pushed me up against his squad car, his chest pressed to my back. But he was careful not to hurt me. His grip was tight but not punishing. And when he slapped cuffs on my wrists, it was the gentlest arrest I'd ever had.
You can listen to the rest of the book in the Tempt Romance audiobooks app, available on the App Store and Google Play. The link to the book is in the description. Discover even more bestsellers and exclusive stories updated weekly, only in Tempt Romance audiobooks.